Hello, today we are going to learn classes and objects, and in detail we will be learning all the concepts of classes. So let's begin. Now all of us we have studied before that what is a class. A class is a real world entity which has a certain set of related properties and functions. So it is a user defined data type which holds its own data members and member functions. So every class is called as a user defined data type, that is we are defining that data, and it is what it is holding. It can hold data members and it can hold member functions, and this is a structure which can be accessed by creating an instance of that class. And what is the instance of that class? An object is an instance of that class. Now let's see, we had seen this example, if you can recollect the example of a car which is having certain set of member variables or properties called as color, mileage, structure, and apply brakes and increase speed were the methods, or we call it as member functions. So the terminologies are like the properties over here are referred as member variables, and the behavior over here is referred as member functions. So behavior is nothing but how the class is going to behave. So a car is like, it is the behavior of a car is it can apply brakes, it can increase the speed. So that is a behavior. So these are the terminologies which are used for these for a particular entity or a particular class. Now classes comprises of, just now as we said, instance variables or member variables, and it consists of member functions or member methods. So this is a sample example of a car which is having, car is having a color, structure, mileage. These were the member variables or the instance variables, and these two are nothing but the member functions. Apply brakes and increase speed are the member functions, or they are called as the member methods. Now there is a way in which we declare the instance variable. Okay, there is a syntax for declaring the instance variables. So instance variables can be of primitive and non-primitive data types. Primitive data types are nothing but our integer, byte, string, float, double. These are the primitive data types. And non-primitive data types were nothing but instance variable can be of type string, it can be of type arrays. Okay, so these are the non-primitive data types. Now all the instance variable declared in a class are having a default scope, that is public. Now there is a concept called as scope of variable as well as the methods. Okay, now there are three types of scopes, that is public, private, and protected. So if you don't mention any of this keyword with the instance variable, then by default the scope of that particular variable is treated as public. Now instance variables can be accessed directly inside a member function or with the help of an object. Okay, so depending on the scope of the instance variable, we can directly access the instance variable with the help of a member function or with the help of an object. Okay, now the member methods. Member methods is function declared and defined inside a class. Now this is the syntax of a member, a method or a function. Again the access specifier, that is default, public, private, protected. Return type. Now every function may or may not return a value. If a function is not returning any value, then the return type is void. But if a function is returning any value, say it is returning a string or an integer or a float or a boolean or any data type, then you have to mention the return type over there, the function name, and the parameter list. Now the parameter list is also optional. If a function requires any parameters, then we have to pass the parameters. If it doesn't require, then the parameter list will be empty. Okay, now we will quickly see an example using this. Okay, now here I have created a class car. Okay, now see, I have declared the class, scope of the class is public. Public means anybody can access that particular method class car. Okay, any other class can access that method, or sorry, the class car. Now here I have declared these are nothing but our instance variables or the member variables. So these are our member variables. That is color. Now you can see the color I have defined it as private. Purposely I have defined it just for to show you how these variable scope these what keywords are used. Okay. Now the string I haven't mentioned anything. So by default it is public. Okay. Even the mileage I haven't mentioned anything. So it is public. Okay. So if you want to explicitly mention, you have to write there public. If you don't mention it, then it is considered as public only. Okay, now there are two methods in it. Get details, in which now you can see color, structure, mileage. These are nothing but our member variables, which I am accessing it in a method get details, which is a public method of the class car. So I am accessing it directly. I am assigning it some value. Color red, structure sedan, say mileage 20. And show details is nothing but again a public method. The return type over here is void. This is also returning void, and this is also returning void, means it is not returning any value. Okay, and I am printing your color, car color is say color, your car structure is this value of the structure, and your car mileage is the mileage. Now here I have defined a method called as apply brakes, which is returning a boolean. Okay, so I just mentioned true. So return true is nothing but a value which is returned by this method. These are what are member methods. Okay, or we call it as functions or functions. Okay, so this is returning a boolean value. Increase speed, it is just speed increased, it will print output. So what have I done? I have created a structure of class car, in which is having certain set of member variables and certain set of methods, member functions. Okay, now this particular structure we are just going to compile it and keep it. Okay, now every class file which is getting compiled, that is the file name is having extension .java. So if you go and check the folder where this particular program is saved, there you will be able to see a .class file also. Now here my Java programs are present in this folder, and in this, see, car was my Java file, and here I am having the .class file. Now what is a .class file? A .class file is nothing but it is having the byte representation of that particular class file. Okay, now what is a, and why do we need it? The main characteristic of the Java language is platform independent. Okay, the main characteristics of any Java, or the Java is platform independent. Now what do you mean by platform independent? Now we have having different types of operating systems with us. We are having Windows, we are having Linux, okay, we are having say XP, Windows 7, Windows XP. So these are different types of operating system. Now every operating system has its own machine language. Okay, so every operating system has its own machine language. Like Windows operating system's machine language will be different than Linux. Okay, that will be different than Windows XP. Okay, so the program which we are creating, okay, which is of .java extension. Okay, when we compile it, we get a .class file of that particular program, and this particular program gets interpreted. This gets interpreted by that operating system's interpreter. So what is happening? Our .java file, first we compile it, find any errors, and we have a dot class file. Now the dot class file can go and it will gets interpreted by that particular operating system's interpreter, and then we get the output. So every operating system's interpreter is different. Okay, so we need to just pick this dot class file, and you have to go, supposing your machine, you're working on Windows XP. Okay, if you are having the interpreter installed on a Linux operating system, then the Linux operating system's interpreter will use the same dot class file and predict the output. So because of this feature, we call Java as platform. Platform is nothing but your operating system, independent. It is not dependent on any of the platform. Okay, the dot class file can be picked from one place and can be executed in any other operating system, because it is we have already compiled it and we are just going to port this dot class file. So every program which you can see now, car is having a dot class file. Okay, I hope you understood this concept. Now we had this class called as car. Okay, so this structure is ready with me. Now I am going to use this structure in some other program. Okay, so I'm having, say I'll open another program. Say I'm having use car. Okay, this is a different structure. Okay, now you can see in this use car, this particular program is present in the same folder where my car program is there. Okay, now this is a simple class use car. Here I have created public static void main, and this is nothing but the object creation. Okay, now we know that the object gets created with the help of the keyword new. So supposing I remove this, I just write this. Okay, so this is not an object creation. This is not an object creation. This is just declaring a variable which is of type car. Okay, or this is just it is also called as a reference variable. It is called as a reference variable. Okay, so merc over here is called as reference variable. Now if I say merc equal to new car, okay, then here the object gets created. Object creation is done over here. So the new keyword is basically going to help us to create an object. Okay, so the object has got created. Now we know that any methods which are public inside the class. Okay, now this was a car class. Where did it go? Okay, I lost it. Okay, I'm having the car class. Okay, now inside this car class we had this method get details which was public, show details which was public, okay, apply brakes which was public, increase speed which was public. Okay, so I can access these methods. You can see get details, object name dot the method name, object name dot the method name. Okay, now if you see merc dot apply brakes, because apply brakes is returning a boolean value, so I have put it in a if statement. So if merc dot apply brakes is true, then brakes applied. Okay, so output will be brakes applied. And merc dot increase speed. Okay, so in this way I am using this particular class use car, okay, and creating an object of class car in it. Okay, now I'll just execute this. So you can see your car color is red, your car structure is sedan, mileage is 20, brakes applied because it returned the value true, and speed increased. Now here if you can observe, the color variable is of type private. Now the private variables, we have to keep in mind, the private variables cannot be accessed with the help of the object. That means if I do something like that, merc.color equal to yellow, okay, that is I am changing the color. For I have assigned in get details red, now I am trying to change it. Okay, so if I save this and I try to execute this program, use car. Now you can see color has private access in car. That thing means color is a private variable. I cannot access it with the help of the object also. So only one option we have. You have to access color in a method which is public. That is done over here. Get details is a method which is public and I am able to access red over there. Okay, now you can see structure what it is by default, means it is public. So let's see if we can access structure over here. So instead of merc dot color, I say merc dot structure. Okay, and I change the value, something like that, hatchback. Okay, and now I try to again compile this. So you can see I am not getting any error. Why? Because the structure variable is public over here. Now if I call merc show details, okay, so you can see previously the car, when this method was called first time, get details was called, so the values were assigned, then show details were called. Okay, so that time red, sedan and 20 is there, and the second time when I change the value of structure to hatchback, we can see the structure got changed. The rest all values are as it is, but only the structure got changed. Okay, so in this way you have to keep in mind the how the private keyword works. So here the private keyword is helping us to have the security, what actually the other programming languages face the problem of security, that is you cannot hide the data. So over here the private keyword is helping us to hide the data, and there is a flow through which, or there is a way through which you can access the private. Directly you can't access the private variables. Okay, now in this above example we have seen just one object. Okay, now supposing I create another object. Okay, say Maruti, I say car, here I created the object and I say get details and Maruti dot show details. Okay, only get and show I will do it. Okay, now what is happening over here is we are creating a new object. Okay, now you can see the new object here, your car color is red, sedan and 20. These are the values of Maruti car. Okay, so what is happening in this, every object you create, all the object will have the same value. Now I don't want that to happen. Okay, I want that every object's value should be different. So what we have to make a change in our program. So what we will do is in get details, instead of we assigning the values, I will take the value as a parameter from the user. Now there are three variables: string which is of type color, color which is of type string, structure which is again of type string, and mileage which is of type integer. So I take three parameters: string s, string structure say st, and int m. So what am I doing here is, instead of doing this, I'm assigning the values to these variables in this way. Okay, so this is nothing but a method which is having a parameters with it. So this is nothing but a parameterized function. Okay, so what change we have done is, we have just changed the method get details. So again I will compile this car. Okay, there is no main method in this. I have to just compile it. Okay, now where am I using this car? In use car. Okay, now where is it? Here is our first. So we have to pass the variables the way they are mentioned inside the definition of that particular function. So in the definition there are two string variables and then an integer. So here also I will mention two string variables. So supposing I say first was what? The color. So I say blue. The second one was the make. Okay, the sedan. As I'm passing a string, I am putting it in double quotes. Okay, and then say the mileage. Okay, so blue, sedan, and the mileage value. Similarly over here in get details, supposing I pass the value as white, um, say hatchback, and say some value. Okay, so first, just for your convenience, I'll just hide this. So we will just see, I will change this. Okay, I'll just remove this. Okay, now I have to compile my use car. Now you can see your color, a car color is blue, structure sedan 40, and the next one when I created an object Maruti, that time it was white, hatchback, and say 50. So in this way you can pass the parameters to the methods. Okay, so these are and we have actually done this concept of what are local variables and what are global variables, as well as we have seen what are instance variables. Okay, so here in this example car, STM, those are local variables, that is scope is limited to this get details only, and color excuse me, color, structure, and mileage, they are global variables, or they are instance variables which can be accessed inside the class car. Okay, so this was a quick explanation of how to declare a class and how to create an object of the class and how to declare methods and how to declare the instance variable. Now in the next class I'll be explaining you the in detail. We will check what is the constructor and how this particular get details method will get replaced with a constructor.